The emergency beacon cut through the void of space like a desperate scream, its signal bouncing off dead asteroids and empty planets before finally reaching the outer edge of human space. Commander Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the UES Valiant, watching the translation matrix work overtime to decode the alien distress call. "Ma'am, we're getting something coherent," reported Lieutenant Torres from the communications station. His fingers danced across holographic displays as streams of data flowed past. "It's definitely not from any known human colony or ship." Sarah moved closer to the main display, her boots clicking against the metal deck plating. The bridge hummed with quiet efficiency as her crew worked to make sense of the signal. Red warning lights bathed everything in an eerie glow, a reminder that they were far from home in uncharted space. "What's the message saying?" Sarah asked, crossing her arms as she studied the scrolling text appearing on screen. Torres cleared his throat before reading. "It says desperate need assistance. Hostile forces overwhelming our defenses. Any civilization capable of faster-than-light travel, please respond. We offer any payment you require. Our children are dying." He looked up from his station. "Commander, the signal is coming from the Kepler 442 system. That's about 30 light-years from here." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. In her 15 years of military service, she had never encountered an alien distress call. The implications were staggering. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe, and now they had their answer. But more importantly, someone out there needed help. "Can we determine what kind of ships or technology they're using?" Sarah asked, moving to stand behind the navigation officer. "The signal itself is using quantum entanglement communication, which is pretty advanced," replied Chief Science Officer Dr. Martinez. "But there are some strange energy signatures mixed in. Whatever's attacking them is using weapons we don't recognize. The power readings are significant." Sarah stared at the star map showing the location of the distress call. 30 light-years was a considerable distance, but not impossible for human ships to reach. The question was whether they should respond at all. First contact protocols existed, but they were designed for peaceful meetings, not military interventions in alien conflicts. "Commander," Torres spoke up again, "we're receiving another transmission. This one's different." The main screen flickered, and suddenly, they were looking at something that made everyone on the bridge freeze. It was clearly an alien face, elongated skull, large black eyes, and skin that seemed to shimmer with an oily blue-green color. The creature's mouth moved, and somehow the translation software managed to convert the sounds into understandable speech. "Please, anyone who receives this message, we are the Zilani people of the third planet in what you might call the Kepler 442 system. We have been at peace for over 2,000 years, but now a species called the Chromach has arrived in our space. They demand our surrender and threaten to destroy our cities if we refuse." The alien's voice carried obvious pain and exhaustion. Sarah could see burn marks on the creature's face and what looked like the ruins of buildings behind it. "We know nothing of war or violence. Our weapons are tools for mining and construction. The Chromach have ships that can destroy our largest cities from orbit. We have detected your species' communication signals over the years and know you possess advanced technology. We beg for your intervention. Time is running out." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Sarah felt the weight of decision pressing down on her shoulders. This wasn't just about first contact anymore. This was about genocide. "Ma'am," Dr. Martinez said quietly, "if we respond to this, we're essentially declaring ourselves as a military power to any aliens monitoring communications in this region. There could be consequences." Sarah nodded, understanding the risks. But she also understood something else. The Zilani had specifically mentioned detecting human communications over the years. That meant they had been watching humanity, learning about them, and had chosen to ask for help from humans specifically. "Torres, open a channel to Earth Command. Priority Alpha encryption," Sarah ordered. "We need to report this immediately." While Torres worked to establish the connection, Sarah turned to her tactical officer. "Commander Brooks, what's our current combat capability?" Brooks consulted his displays. "We have full weapons systems online, Commander. Plasma cannons, missile tubes, and our new particle beam arrays are all operational. Our shield generators are running at maximum efficiency, and we have a full complement of fighter craft in the hangar." Sarah knew the UES Valiant was one of humanity's most advanced warships, but she also knew it was designed to fight human opponents using human tactics. They had no idea what they would face against these Chromok aliens. The communication channel to Earth crackled to life, and Admiral Harrison's stern face appeared on screen. "Commander Chun, what's your status?" "Admiral, we've received an alien distress call. A species called the Zilani is under attack by another alien race called the Chromok. They're specifically requesting human intervention." Sarah quickly summarized the situation, including the translations and energy readings they had detected. Admiral Harrison was quiet for a long moment, his weathered face showing the strain of making a decision that could alter humanity's place in the galaxy. "Commander, we're going to need more intelligence before we commit to any action. How confident are you in the translation?" Dr. Martinez stepped forward. "Sir, the translation matrix is showing 97% accuracy. The linguistic patterns are consistent with genuine communication rather than any kind of deception." "And the distress signals themselves?" Harrison asked. "Definitely authentic," Torres replied. "The quantum signatures match the energy patterns we're seeing from the system. There's clearly some kind of massive conflict happening there." Admiral Harrison rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "Commander Chun, I'm authorizing you to proceed to the Kepler 442 system for reconnaissance only. Under no circumstances are you to engage in combat without direct orders from Earth Command. We need to know exactly what we're dealing with before we commit humanity to an alien war." "Understood, Admiral," Sarah replied. "What about backup?" "The Second Fleet is already being mobilized. Admiral Rodriguez will be taking command of the response force. If you determine that intervention is warranted and achievable, reinforcements will be available." The communication ended, leaving Sarah to contemplate the magnitude of what they were about to attempt. She turned to face her crew, seeing a mixture of excitement and apprehension on their faces. "Helm, plot a course for the Kepler 442 system. Maximum velocity," she ordered. "All departments, prepare for extended operations. We're about to make history." As the Valiant's engines roared to life and the ship began its journey through space, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that humanity was crossing a line from which there would be no return. They were no longer alone in the universe, and apparently they were already being called upon to serve as protectors. The journey to Kepler 442 would take 18 hours at maximum speed. During that time, Sarah had her crew run every possible simulation and scenario they could imagine. They analyzed the limited data they had about both alien species and tried to develop tactical approaches for unknown technologies. Dr. Martinez worked around the clock to enhance their translation systems and sensor arrays. If they were going to make contact with aliens, they needed to be able to communicate effectively and gather intelligence about any threats they might face. Commander Brooks ran his tactical teams through drills designed to adapt human weapons and strategies to potential alien encounters. They had no idea what the Chromok ships would look like or how they would fight, but they could at least ensure their own systems were operating at peak efficiency. As they approached the edge of the Kepler 442 system, the sensors began picking up the first signs of the conflict the Zilani had described. Energy discharges consistent with massive weapons fire were detected throughout the inner system, and there were clear signs of orbital bombardment around the third planet. "Commander," Torres reported, "we're picking up multiple ship signatures. I count at least 12 large vessels in orbit around the Zilani homeworld, and they don't match any known human designs." Sarah studied the tactical display, noting the positioning and apparent size of the alien ships. "Any sign of Zilani vessels?" "Negative, ma'am. If they had any ships, they're either destroyed or powered down. The only active signatures are from the attacking force." The reality of the situation began to sink in. The Zilani hadn't exaggerated their predicament. They were completely outmatched by whoever these Chromok were. Sarah watched as her sensors detected another massive energy discharge from one of the orbiting ships, followed by what could only be the destruction of something on the planet's surface. "Ma'am," Dr. Martinez said quietly, "I'm detecting massive life sign disruptions on the planet. Whatever those ships are doing, they're killing thousands of people with each attack." Sarah felt anger building in her chest. The Zilani had asked for help, and now she was watching them be slaughtered while she could only observe. But Admiral Harrison's orders had been clear reconnaissance only. "Torres, see if you can establish communication with the planet. Maybe we can get more information about the situation down there. After several minutes of trying different frequencies and communication protocols, Torres managed to establish contact. The face that appeared on screen was the same alien who had sent the original distress call, but now he looked even more desperate and exhausted. "Human vessel, thank the ancient spirits you have come," the Zilani said, his large black eyes reflecting both hope and despair. "I am Council Leader Vexhai of the Zilani people. Are you here to help us?" Sarah chose her words carefully. "Council Leader Vexhai, I am Commander Sarah Chun of the United Earth ship Valiant. We received your distress call and have come to assess the situation. Can you provide us with more information about the attacking forces?" Vexhai's expression showed momentary confusion before understanding dawned. "You wish to know if you can defeat them. Commander Chun, the Chromach arrived 5 days ago with 12 massive warships. They demanded our complete surrender and the right to use our world as a staging ground for further conquests. When we refused, they began destroying our cities one by one." The transmission was interrupted by what sounded like explosions in the background. When the image stabilized, Vexhai was looking over his shoulder before turning back to the screen. "They have just destroyed our capital city's northern district. Commander, my people are defenseless. We are scientists and artists and farmers. We know nothing of war. The Chromach are a warrior species that has conquered dozens of worlds. They see us as nothing more than obstacles to be removed." Sarah felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on her. She was looking at genocide in progress and she had the power to stop it. But she also had orders to follow. "Council Leader, can you tell us anything about Chromach tactics or technology that might help us understand their capabilities?"
Vexhai nodded eagerly.
"Their ships use some form of energy shielding that has deflected everything we have tried to use against them. Their weapons appear to be plasma-based, similar to your own species' technology, but much more powerful. They also have smaller attack craft that they deploy for precision strikes." This information was exactly what Sarah needed to hear. The Chromach weren't using incomprehensible alien super technology. They were using advanced versions of weapons and defenses that humans understood and had developed countermeasures for. "Commander," Brooks said quietly, "if their technology is comparable to ours, we might actually have a chance. The Valiant's weapons are designed to penetrate energy shielding, and our own shields should provide some protection against plasma weapons." Sarah nodded, but she still had her orders. "Council Leader Vexhai, we are currently gathering intelligence on the situation. More human ships are on their way. Can your people hold out for a few more hours?" The alien's expression showed both gratitude and resignation. "Commander, we will try. But the Chromach have given us until tomorrow morning to surrender, or they will begin destroying entire cities at once instead of section by section. They want us to watch our world die slowly unless we submit to slavery." The transmission ended, leaving Sarah staring at a blank screen. Around her, the bridge crew waited for orders, their faces showing the same internal conflict she felt. They had the power to help, but they also had responsibilities to their own species. "Ma'am," Torres said hesitantly, "we're receiving a transmission from the Chromach ships. They're demanding our identification and intentions." Sarah straightened her uniform. "Put them through. Let's see what we're dealing with." The alien face that appeared on screen was nothing like the peaceful Zilani. The Chromach representative had dark gray skin stretched tight over sharp bone structure, with small red eyes and a mouth full of pointed teeth. When it spoke, its voice was harsh and commanding. "Unknown vessel, you will identify yourself immediately and state your business in this system. This world is now under Chromach control, and any interference will be considered an act of war." Sarah stepped forward, meeting the alien's gaze directly. "This is Commander Sarah Chun of the United Earth ship Valiant. We are here in response to a distress call from the inhabitants of this world." The Chromach leader's expression showed what might have been amusement.
"Humans.
"We have heard of your species. You are from a single world and have barely begun to explore your local space. You will leave immediately, or we will add your ship to our collection of trophies." "We're here on a humanitarian mission," Sarah replied. "The Zilani have asked for our protection. The Zilani will submit or die, just like dozens of other weak species before them. Their choice is irrelevant, and your opinion is not requested. You have 1 hour to leave this system. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Sarah with a clear understanding of what she was dealing with. The Chromach weren't interested in negotiation or compromise. They were conquerors, pure and simple. "Commander," Dr. Martinez said, "I've been analyzing the energy signatures from their ships during that communication. Their technology is definitely more advanced than ours, but not by as much as I initially thought. I estimate their weapons are maybe 30% more powerful than ours, and their shields are probably comparable to our own." Sarah nodded, filing away the information. She was starting to form a plan, but it would require violating her orders. She looked around the bridge at her crew, seeing determination replacing uncertainty on their faces. "Ma'am," Commander Brooks said quietly, "the crew is ready for whatever you decide to do." Sarah took a deep breath, knowing that the next few minutes would determine not just the fate of the Zilani, but possibly humanity's future role in the galaxy. The choice before her was simple in concept but enormous in implications: follow orders and watch a genocide happen, or take action and potentially save an entire species while risking war with a powerful alien empire. The decision, when it came, felt inevitable. Commander Sarah Chun stared at the tactical display showing 12 Chromach warships positioned around the Zilani homeworld like predators circling wounded prey. The alien ultimatum echoed in her mind: 1 hour to leave or face the consequences. But watching another energy discharge from orbit slam into the planet's surface, she knew her decision had already been made. "Lieutenant Torres, establish a secure channel to Admiral Harrison on Earth," she ordered, her voice steady despite the weight of what she was about to do. "Priority Alpha encryption, military emergency protocols." The bridge crew worked with focused intensity as they established the connection. When Admiral Harrison's face appeared on screen, Sarah could see the strain of command etched in his features. Behind him, she caught glimpses of other officers moving urgently through what looked like a crisis management center. "Commander Chun, report your status," Harrison said without preamble. "Admiral, we've made contact with both alien species. The situation is worse than we initially believed." Sarah quickly outlined everything they had learned, including the Chromach ultimatum and the ongoing bombardment of civilian targets. "Sir, we're watching genocide happen in real time. The Chromach have given the Zilani until tomorrow morning to surrender, or they'll accelerate the slaughter." Admiral Harrison absorbed the information, his expression growing darker with each detail. "Commander, I understand your position, but we cannot risk humanity's first contact with hostile aliens based on emotion. What's your assessment of our tactical situation?" Commander Brooks stepped forward. "Admiral, based on our sensor analysis and communication with both species, the Chromach technology is superior but not overwhelmingly so. Their weapons appear to be approximately 30% more powerful than our own, but they're using similar principles: plasma-based energy weapons and particle shielding systems." "Numbers?" Harrison asked. 12 hostile warships against our single vessel," Sarah replied. "However, sir, I believe we have significant advantages they don't expect. Human military doctrine, adaptive tactics, and the element of surprise." Dr. Martinez added his analysis. "Admiral, the Chromach appear to be used to fighting species with limited military capability. Their positioning around the planet is designed for bombardment, not fleet combat. They're not expecting resistance from an organized military force." Harrison was quiet for several seconds, and Sarah could practically see him weighing the implications. "Commander, you're asking me to authorize humanity's first interstellar war based on limited intelligence and overwhelming odds." "No, sir," Sarah replied firmly. "I'm asking for permission to prevent the extinction of an entire peaceful civilization. The Zilani specifically reached out to humanity for help. They know about us, they've been monitoring our communications, and they chose to ask us for protection. If we walk away now, we're telling the galaxy that humans will stand by and watch genocide happen when we have the power to stop it." The tension on the bridge was palpable as they waited for Harrison's response. Sarah knew she was asking him to make a decision that could define humanity's place in galactic politics for generations to come. "Commander," Harrison said finally, "I'm authorizing defensive action only. You are to attempt to evacuate Zilani civilians and provide humanitarian assistance. If the Chromach attack you while conducting these operations, you are authorized to defend yourself. The Second Fleet is en route but won't arrive for another 16 hours. Sarah felt a surge of relief mixed with apprehension. It wasn't exactly the authorization she wanted, but It gave her the legal framework to do what needed to be done. Understood, Admiral. We'll begin evacuation operations immediately. After the communication ended, Sarah turned to face her crew. She could see the mixture of anticipation and fear on their faces, but also something else, determination. They had trained their entire careers for moments like this, even if none of them had imagined it would involve alien contact. Listen up, everyone, she announced. We're about to make history. Our mission is to evacuate as many Zilani civilians as possible while providing humanitarian assistance. If the Chromok try to stop us, we defend ourselves. But remember, everything we do here will be studied and analyzed by both our own government and potentially hostile alien civilizations for decades to come. We represent all of humanity today. Commander Brooks began issuing tactical orders. All weapons systems online but not armed. Shields to maximum power. I want our sensor arrays focused on those Chromok ships, any sign of aggressive movement, and we go to combat status immediately. Dr. Martinez started coordinating with the communications team. We need to establish multiple channels with the Zilani government and begin identifying evacuation sites. Priority goes to civilians in areas currently under bombardment. Sarah watched her crew spring into action with professional efficiency. These were some of Earth's finest military personnel trained for deep space operations and first contact scenarios. But none of their training had prepared them for armed intervention in an alien war. Helm, take us into the system, Sarah ordered. Maximum tactical speed. Let's see how the Chromok react to our presence. The UES Valiant moved deeper into the Kepler 442 system, its advanced sensors mapping the positions of every ship and analyzing the ongoing bombardment patterns. The Chromok fleet was arranged in a standard orbital siege formation, with their largest ships positioned to target major population centers, while smaller vessels handled precision strikes. Ma'am, Torres reported. We're being hailed by the Chromok fleet commander. Audio and visual transmission incoming. Put it through, Sarah replied, straightening her uniform and preparing to face the alien warlord again. The Chromok commander appeared on screen, his red eyes blazing with what appeared to be anger. Human vessel, you were ordered to leave this system. Your presence here is an act of aggression against the Chromok Empire. Sarah met his gaze directly. This is a humanitarian mission. We're here to provide assistance to civilian populations under attack. We have no intention of interfering with legitimate military operations. The alien's harsh laughter was like grinding metal. There are no civilians on this world, only future slaves or corpses. Your interference is noted and will be reported to the High Command. Leave now or share their fate. We're not leaving, Sarah replied simply. The Chromok commander leaned forward, his sharp teeth visible in what might have been a predatory smile. Then you will die with them. You have brought one ship against the might of the Chromok fleet. Your bravery is admirable but pointless. Maybe, Sarah said, but sometimes one ship is enough. The transmission ended, leaving an ominous silence on the bridge. Sarah knew she had just committed humanity to a course of action that could end either in triumph or disaster. But watching the ongoing bombardment of innocent civilians had made the choice inevitable. Commander, Brooks announced, Chromok vessels are beginning to change formation. 3 ships are moving to intercept us while the others maintain their bombardment positions. Sarah studied the tactical display, noting the approaching ship's vector and speed. Estimated time to weapons range? 12 minutes at current approach speed, Brooks replied. Sarah nodded, using the time to establish contact with the Zilani government. Council leader Vexhai appeared on screen, his expression showing desperate hope mixed with disbelief. Commander Chun, are you truly here to help us? The Chromok ships are moving toward you. We're here to evacuate civilians and provide assistance, Sarah replied. Can you identify the most critical evacuation sites? Vexhai's hands moved over what appeared to be a holographic control panel. The capital city has approximately 2 million inhabitants under immediate threat. The Chromok are systematically destroying residential districts. We also have 3 smaller cities that have taken direct hits to their evacuation centers. Sarah turned to Dr. Martinez. What's our transport capacity? The Valiant can carry approximately 10,000 individuals in emergency conditions, he replied. But that would require multiple trips and significant time. The reality of the situation became clear. Even if they could somehow defeat or drive off the Chromok fleet, they couldn't evacuate millions of people with a single ship. They needed to find another solution. Vexhai, what kind of defensive installations do you have? Underground shelters, reinforced buildings, anything that could protect civilians from orbital bombardment. The Zelani leader consulted with others off-screen before responding. We have extensive underground research facilities and mining complexes that could shelter large populations. But the Chromok have threatened to use ground-penetrating weapons if we attempt to hide. Sarah felt a plan beginning to form. If they could somehow neutralize or damage the Chromok fleet's ability to conduct precision bombardment, the civilians might be able to take shelter until help arrived. Commander, Torres announced urgently, the 3 approaching Chromok vessels have just powered up their weapons systems. Estimated time to firing range is now 8 minutes. Sarah looked around her bridge, seeing her crew waiting for orders. They had trained for this moment their entire careers, but none of them had expected their first real combat to be against aliens in defense of another species. All hands, this is the commander, Sarah announced over the ship's intercom. We are about to engage hostile alien forces in defense of innocent civilians. Remember your training, trust your equipment, and know that everything we do here today will determine humanity's reputation among the stars. Battle stations. The bridge transformed as combat protocols activated. Emergency lighting cast everything in red shadows while tactical displays showed the approaching threat in stark detail. The crew moved with practiced precision, each person focused on their specific responsibilities. Weapons systems armed and ready, Brooks reported. Shields at maximum power, added Chief Engineer Petty Officer Kim from her station. All fighter squadrons are on standby in the launch bays, reported Squadron Leader Williams over the comm. Sarah watched the tactical display as the 3 Chromok ships continued their approach. She could see that they were larger than the Valiant, probably carrying more firepower and stronger shields. But she also noticed something in their formation that suggested overconfidence. Brooks, what's your assessment of their approach pattern? Her tactical officer studied the display for several seconds. Ma'am, they're flying in a standard intimidation formation designed to maximize their apparent threat. But it also means they're not expecting serious resistance. Their shields are optimized for forward protection, and they're not maintaining proper spacing for mutual support. Interesting, Sarah mused. They've probably been doing this for so long against helpless civilizations that they've forgotten how to fight against real opposition. Dr. Martinez looked up from his sensor station. Commander, I'm detecting unusual energy patterns from the Chromok ships. It looks like they're preparing some kind of wide-area bombardment weapon, possibly designed to take us out quickly. Sarah nodded, recognizing the tactical situation. The Chromok were planning to destroy the Valiant with overwhelming firepower before it could interfere with their siege operations. It was probably a standard tactic they used against any species foolish enough to resist. Time to weapons range? She asked. For minutes, Brooks replied. Sarah made her decision. Launch all fighter squadrons. I want them to approach from the Chromok blind spots while we engage directly. Brooks, prepare to target their formation leader with everything we have. The Valiant's hangar bays opened, releasing 3 squadrons of Earth's most advanced fighter craft into space. The small ships scattered immediately, using their superior maneuverability to approach the alien vessels from unexpected angles. Fighters away and beginning attack runs, reported Squadron Leader Williams. We're detecting heavy point defense systems on the Chromok ships, but their targeting seems optimized for larger vessels. Sarah watched as humanity's first space battle began to unfold. The Chromok ships had opened fire on the Valiant with massive plasma cannons that lit up space with deadly energy. But the human ship's shields held, and return fire from the Valiant's weapons struck the leading Chromok vessel with surprising effectiveness. Direct hits on their forward shields, Brooks announced. Their defensive energy is dropping faster than expected. The human fighters dove in from multiple directions, their smaller weapons targeting what appeared to be sensor arrays and weapon systems on the alien ships. The Chromok vessels tried to track them, but their weapons were too slow and cumbersome to effectively engage the nimble human craft. Ma'am, Torres called out. We're receiving a transmission from the Chromok fleet commander. Put it through, Sarah ordered, even as she watched another exchange of weapons fire between the fleets. The alien commander appeared on screen, but this time his expression showed surprise rather than confidence. Human ship, your resistance is unexpected. We offer you one final opportunity to withdraw. Continued interference will result in the complete destruction of your vessel. Counteroffer, Sarah replied calmly. You withdraw from this system immediately, and we won't destroy your entire fleet. The Chromach commander's reaction was immediate and predictable.
Impossible.
One human ship cannot defeat the might of the Chromach Empire. Want to bet? Sarah asked just before the transmission cut. What happened next would be remembered in both human and alien history as the moment when humanity announced its presence on the galactic stage. The battle was far from over, but the opening exchanges had already proven something that would reshape the balance of power among the stars. The Chromach had expected to face another helpless civilization begging for mercy. Instead, they had encountered something entirely different. A species that not only possessed advanced military technology but was willing to use it in defense of others. As plasma fire lit up the darkness between the worlds, Sarah Chan and her crew were writing the first chapter of humanity's reputation as the galaxy's unexpected protectors. The space around the Zalani homeworld erupted in brilliant flashes of energy as human and Chromach weapon systems engaged in deadly combat. Commander Sarah Chan gripped her command chair as the UES Valiant shook under the impact of alien plasma fire, her shield generators working at maximum capacity to deflect the devastating attacks. Shield strength at 75%, Chief Engineer Kim reported from her station, her fingers flying over control panels as she rerouted power to compensate for the damage. Forward generators took heavy hits, but they're holding. Sarah watched the tactical display as their fighter squadrons continued their attack runs against the 3 Chromach vessels. The alien ships were having difficulty tracking the smaller human craft, their weapons apparently designed for ship-to-ship combat rather than anti-fighter operations. Squadron Leader Williams, report, Sarah called over the communication channel. Ma'am, we've successfully disabled the weapons systems on the trailing Chromach vessel. Williams responded, his voice tight with concentration as he maneuvered his fighter through a maze of plasma fire. Their point defense grid has multiple holes and we're exploiting them. But these ships are tough. Their armor is holding up better than expected. Commander Brooks analyzed the incoming sensor data from the fighter attack. Ma'am, it looks like the Chromach vessels have some kind of reactive armor system. When our weapons hit, the armor actually adapts to become more resistant to the same type of damage. Sarah absorbed this information quickly. Adaptive defenses meant that conventional tactics might not work against these aliens. They needed to think differently, use strategies the Chromach hadn't encountered before. Brooks, what happens if we hit them with multiple different weapon types simultaneously? Her tactical officer's eyes lit up with understanding. Their armor might not be able to adapt quickly enough to multiple simultaneous threats. We could overwhelm their defensive systems. Do it, Sarah ordered. Coordinate with the fighter squadrons. I want plasma cannons, particle beams, and kinetic missiles hitting their lead ship at exactly the same time. As the human forces prepared their coordinated attack, Sarah noticed something interesting on her sensor readings. The 9 remaining Chromach ships in orbit around the planet had stopped their bombardment and were beginning to move toward the battle. Ma'am, Torres announced, we're receiving another transmission from the planet. It's Council Leader Vex High. The Zalani leader's face appeared on screen, his large black eyes reflecting both gratitude and concern. Commander Chun, our sensors show that the bombardment has stopped. The Chromach ships are moving to join the battle against you. Sarah felt a mix of satisfaction and worry. They had achieved their immediate goal of stopping the slaughter of civilians, but now they faced overwhelming odds as 12 alien warships prepared to engage a single human vessel. Vex High, how quickly can your people get to those underground shelters you mentioned? We have already begun emergency evacuation procedures, the Zalani replied. But, Commander, you cannot face 12 ships alone. Even with your advanced weapons, the numbers are impossible. Maybe, Sarah said with more confidence than she felt. But humans have a saying, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. Before Vex High could respond, the coordinated human attack struck the lead Chromach vessel. Plasma bolts, particle beams, and kinetic missiles hit the alien ship simultaneously from multiple angles. The result was spectacular. The Chromach ship's adaptive armor couldn't compensate for the variety of weapons, and multiple hull breaches appeared along its flanks. Direct hits across all weapon systems, Brooks announced with satisfaction. Their shields collapsed and we've got significant damage to their primary hull structure. The damaged Chromoc ship began to list to one side, clearly having trouble maintaining power to its engines and weapons. But Sarah knew their victory was temporary. The other Chromoc vessels were rapidly approaching, and the odds were about to become impossible. "Commander," Dr. Martinez called out from his station, "I'm detecting some kind of massive energy buildup from the approaching Chromoc fleet. It looks like they're preparing to use some kind of combined weapon system." Sarah studied the tactical display, noting the formation the alien ships were adopting. They were arranging themselves in a specific geometric pattern, with energy readings building between the vessels. "It's some kind of coordinated attack," she realized. "They're going to hit us with the combined firepower of all 12 ships simultaneously." Chief Engineer Kim looked up from her damage reports. "Ma'am, our shields won't survive that kind of concentrated assault. We need to either retreat or find some other option immediately." Sarah felt the weight of command pressing down on her shoulders. She had committed humanity to this battle, and retreat would mean abandoning the Zelani to genocide. But staying meant almost certain destruction of her ship and crew. That's when Squadron Leader Williams's voice crackled over the comm with an unexpected proposal. "Commander, what if we don't give them a target to shoot at?" "Explain," Sarah ordered. "Ma'am, the Chromoc ships are maintaining formation to maximize their coordinated attack. But if we move in close to one of their vessels, they won't be able to fire without hitting each other." Commander Brooks picked up the tactical thread immediately. "It's risky, but it could work. If we can position ourselves right next to one of their ships, their own formation works against them." Sarah considered the plan quickly. It was dangerous and required precise maneuvering, but it was better than sitting still and absorbing the combined firepower of 12 alien warships. "Do it," she decided. "Helm, take us directly toward the center of their formation. Full impulse power." The Valiant accelerated toward the approaching Chromoc fleet at maximum speed. Sarah could see the alien ships adjusting their formation, trying to maintain their coordinated attack pattern while dealing with the unexpected maneuver. 30 seconds to contact, the helmsman announced, his voice steady despite the tension. Sarah watched as the Chromoc ships tried to adjust their targeting, but their formation was too rigid to allow for rapid changes. The human ship slipped between two of the larger alien vessels, effectively using them as shields against their own fleet. "The Chromoc ships are holding fire," Torres reported. "They can't target us without hitting each other." But Sarah knew this tactical advantage was temporary. The aliens would adapt quickly once they realized what humanity was doing. She needed to use these precious seconds to maximum advantage. "All fighter squadrons, concentrate on the ship to our starboard. Target their engines and weapon systems. Brooks, prepare to ram if necessary."
"Mom,"
Brooks asked, uncertain he had heard correctly. "If we can disable their propulsion, they become a liability to their own fleet," Sarah explained. "They'll either have to abandon the ship or risk it becoming a collision hazard." The human fighters swarmed the targeted Chromoc vessel, their weapons focusing on critical systems. Meanwhile, the Valiant's guns opened fire at point-blank range, overwhelming the alien ship's defenses through sheer proximity and concentrated firepower. The Chromoc ship began to lose structural integrity as human weapons carved through its hull. Explosions rippled along its surface as internal systems overloaded, and the massive vessel started to drift out of formation. "Target ship is dead in space," Brooks announced. "No engine power, weapons offline." But the victory came at a cost. The other Chromoc ships had finally adapted to the human tactic, spreading their formation wider to allow clear firing lanes. Plasma bolts began raining down on the Valiant from multiple directions. Shields at 40% and falling, Kim reported as the ship shook under the assault. Sarah realized they had bought time, but they were still outnumbered and facing superior firepower. That's when her sensor officer detected something that changed everything. "Commander," Dr. Martinez called out excitedly, "I'm picking up new contacts at the edge of the system. Multiple ships, approaching fast." Sarah's heart leaped with hope. "The second fleet?" "Negative, ma'am. The energy signatures don't match any human designs. But they're not Chromoc either." The main screen shifted to show the incoming vessels. There were at least 20 of them, their designs unlike anything in human or Chromoc databases. They moved with purpose toward the battle zone, their weapon systems clearly visible and powered. "Ma'am," Torres announced, "we're receiving a transmission from the lead ship." The face that appeared on screen was yet another alien species, tall, elegant beings with silver skin and large, intelligent eyes. When the creature spoke, the translation was perfect. "Human vessel, this is Admiral Kethvar of the Altarian Defense Force. We have monitored your engagement with the Chromoc invaders. Your actions in defense of the peaceful Zalani have been noted with approval." Sarah felt a surge of relief mixed with curiosity. "Admiral, this is Commander Sarah Chun. We're grateful for any assistance you can provide." The Altarian Admiral's expression showed what might have been a smile. "Commander, the Chromoc have terrorized this region of space for decades. Many civilizations have fallen to their expansion. But today, we have witnessed something new. A species willing to fight against impossible odds to protect others." The Altarian fleet moved into attack formation as the Admiral continued. "The Galactic Defense Coalition has been seeking allies in the fight against Chromoc expansion. Your actions today have earned humanity an invitation to join our alliance." Sarah watched as the newcomers engaged the Chromoc fleet with devastating effectiveness. Their weapons technology was clearly superior to both human and Chromoc systems, and they moved with the coordination of a force that had been fighting together for years. "Admiral Kethvar, we appreciate your assistance. But why are you here?" "The Altarians have been tracking Chromoc fleet movements for months," the alien admiral explained. "When we detected their attack on the Zalani homeworld, we dispatched forces to intervene. However, you arrived first and chose to act despite being greatly outnumbered. The battle around them was turning rapidly in favor of the Allied forces. The Chromoc ships, designed to overwhelm helpless civilizations, were not prepared to face coordinated resistance from multiple advanced species. Several alien vessels were already retreating toward the edge of the system. The Chromoc will likely withdraw," Admiral Kethvar continued. "But they will remember what happened here. Your species has made both powerful allies and dangerous enemies today." Sarah absorbed the implications of what she was hearing. Humanity had just been thrust into galactic politics in the most dramatic way possible by fighting alongside aliens against a common enemy. "Admiral, what does membership in this Galactic Defense Coalition involve?" "Mutual protection agreements, technology sharing, and coordinated military operations against common threats," the Altarian replied. "But, most importantly, it means never having to face the darkness alone." As Sarah watched the last Chromoc ships fleeing the system, she realized that her decision to respond to a single distress call had fundamentally altered humanity's place in the universe. They were no longer alone among the stars, and they had announced their presence as protectors rather than conquerors. "Torres, establish a channel to Earth Command," she ordered. "Admiral Harrison needs to know that humanity just joined its first interstellar alliance." The communication went through quickly, and Admiral Harrison's face appeared on screen. Behind him, Sarah could see the Second Fleet approaching the edge of the system, their arrival no longer needed but deeply appreciated. "Commander Chun, report your status," Harrison demanded immediately. "Admiral, the immediate threat has been neutralized. The Chromoc fleet has withdrawn, and Zalani civilians are safe. But, sir, we've made contact with a coalition of alien species called the Galactic Defense Coalition. They're offering humanity membership based on our actions here today." Harrison absorbed this information with the calm professionalism Sarah had come to expect from him. "Commander, you've potentially altered the course of human history. What's your assessment of these new allies?" Admiral Kethvar spoke up before Sarah could respond. "Admiral Harrison of Earth, your commander and crew have shown remarkable courage and tactical skill. The coalition would be honored to welcome humanity as an equal partner in maintaining peace among the stars." Harrison studied the alien admiral carefully. "What are the obligations and benefits of such membership?" "Protection from species like the Chromoc, access to advanced technologies and trade relationships, and the knowledge that your civilization will never face extinction alone," Kethvar replied. "In return, we ask only that humanity continue to demonstrate the same willingness to defend the innocent that you showed here today." Sarah watched as her admiral considered the offer. She knew the decision was beyond her authority, but She also knew that Earth's leadership would need to act quickly to capitalize on the opportunity her actions had created. Admiral Kethvar, humanity will need time to consider this offer through proper diplomatic channels, Harrison said carefully. But please know that we are honored by your invitation. The Altarian admiral nodded understandingly. Of course, the coalition has waited centuries for the right allies. We can wait a little longer. As the immediate crisis passed, Sarah found herself contemplating the magnitude of what had just occurred. A single distress call from an unknown species had led to humanity's introduction to galactic civilization as defenders rather than explorers. Ma'am, Torres announced, Council Leader Vexhai is requesting permission to address you directly. The Zilani leader appeared on screen, his expression showing profound gratitude. Commander Chun, there are no words in our language sufficient to thank you and your species. You risked everything to save us from extinction. It was the right thing to do, Sarah replied simply. Perhaps, Vexhai said. But righteousness without the power to enforce it is meaningless. You possessed both the moral conviction and the military capability to act. The Zilani people will remember this debt for all time. As the various fleets began to organize rescue and recovery operations, Sarah reflected on the day's events. They had come to investigate a distress call and ended up reshaping humanity's place in the galaxy. The question now was whether Earth's government would embrace this new role or retreat back to the safety of isolation. But, as Sarah looked at her crew, humans who had fought alongside aliens to save innocent lives, she was confident about the answer. Humanity had found its calling among the stars, and there would be no turning back. 3 days after the Battle of Kepler 442, Commander Sarah Chun stood in the observation deck of the UES Valiant, watching the massive construction effort taking place around the Zilani homeworld. Ships from dozens of species had arrived to assist in rebuilding the damaged cities and establishing proper defense systems for the peaceful civilization. The transformation had been remarkable. What started as humanity's first contact with alien life had become the foundation for a new era of interstellar cooperation. The Galactic Defense Coalition had moved swiftly to establish a permanent presence in the system, sending engineering teams, medical personnel, and military advisors to ensure the Zilani would never again face extinction alone. Commander, Lieutenant Torres approached with a datapad in his hands. We've received the preliminary response from Earth Command regarding the coalition membership offer. Sarah took the pad and read through the carefully worded diplomatic response. As expected, Earth's government was proceeding cautiously, but the underlying message was clear: humanity was interested in joining the galactic community, but wanted to understand the full implications first. Any word on the diplomatic team's arrival? She asked. Secretary of State Morrison and her staff should arrive with the Third Fleet tomorrow, Torres replied. Admiral Harrison specifically requested that you remain here to provide continuity during the negotiations. Sarah nodded, understanding the wisdom of keeping the people who had initiated first contact involved in the ongoing discussions. She turned back to the viewport, watching as a massive Altarian engineering vessel carefully positioned itself to begin repairs on the planet's orbital infrastructure. The past 3 days had been a whirlwind of activity and learning. The coalition had been more than generous in sharing basic information about galactic civilization, providing humanity with context for the universe they had suddenly joined. The revelation had been staggering in scope. Galactic civilization encompassed thousands of intelligent species spread across dozens of sectors, with complex trade relationships, territorial agreements, and mutual defense pacts. The Chromach Empire was just one of several aggressive expansionist powers that threatened peaceful species throughout the galaxy. Ma'am, Dr. Martinez called from across the observation deck, where he had been working with a team of coalition scientists. You should see what we've learned about human technology from our new allies. Sarah joined the science team gathered around a holographic display showing detailed schematics of human and alien technology side by side. What she saw was both encouraging and humbling. It turns out that human weapons technology is actually quite advanced, Dr. Martinez explained. Our plasma cannons and particle beam arrays are comparable to what most coalition species use. But our defensive systems and faster-than-light drives are somewhat primitive by galactic standards. Admiral Kethvar, who had been working closely with the human crew, added his perspective. What impressed the coalition most was not your technology, but your tactical adaptability. Most species develop standard military doctrines and rarely deviate from them. Humans appear to improvise and adapt naturally. Sarah found this assessment interesting. How so? Your use of our formation against us during the battle was completely unexpected, the Altarian admiral explained. Most species would have either retreated or attempted to match our firepower directly. Humans chose a third option that none of our tactical computers had predicted. Commander Brooks, who had been listening to the conversation, spoke up. Admiral, if I may ask, why was the Coalition monitoring Chromok movements in this area? Are they a significant threat to galactic stability? Kethvar's expression grew serious. The Chromok Empire controls approximately 200 star systems and has destroyed or enslaved dozens of civilizations. They represent one of the primary threats to peace in this galactic sector. Until now, the Coalition has been fighting a defensive war, protecting member species but unable to launch major offensive operations. What changed? Sarah asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Humanity changed the equation, Kethvar replied. Your willingness to intervene on behalf of a species you had never encountered demonstrates the kind of moral courage the Coalition needs. But, more importantly, your tactical innovations suggest that human military thinking could provide new approaches to old problems. The implications were becoming clear to Sarah. The Coalition wasn't just offering humanity membership. They were hoping humans could help turn the tide in a war that had been stalemated for decades. Admiral, she said carefully, what exactly would Coalition membership mean for humanity in practical terms? Initially, technology sharing and joint defensive operations, Kethvar explained. Human space would be protected by Coalition forces, and Earth would gain access to advanced medical technology improved faster-than-light drives and energy generation systems. In return, humanity would contribute military expertise and personnel to Coalition defense operations. Dr. Martinez looked up from his technical analysis. Commander, some of these technologies could revolutionize human civilization. Their medical advances could eliminate most diseases, and their energy systems could end resource scarcity on Earth. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders once again. The decisions made in the coming days would affect every human alive and countless generations yet to be born. Ma'am, Torres announced, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Zilani government. Council Leader Vexhai wants to address you directly. The Zilani leader's face appeared on the main display, but he looked different than before. Gone was the desperation and exhaustion Sarah remembered from their first contact. Instead, Vexhai appeared confident and purposeful. Commander Chen, I wanted to personally update you on our recovery efforts. Thanks to Coalition assistance, we have successfully evacuated all civilians from damaged areas and begun reconstruction of our primary cities. That's excellent news, Sarah replied. How are your people adapting to the presence of so many different alien species? Vexhai's expression showed what might have been amusement. Actually, quite well. The Zilani have always been curious about other forms of life. Having the opportunity to learn from dozens of advanced civilizations is like a dream come true for our scientists and philosophers. And your defenses? Sarah asked. Admiral Kethvar's engineers are installing shield generators around our major population centers, and the Coalition is establishing a permanent garrison in our system. The Chromok will not catch us defenseless again. Sarah was pleased to hear about the successful recovery, but she noticed something in Vexhai's tone that suggested there was more to this communication than a simple status update. Council Leader, is there something specific you wanted to discuss?
Vexhai nodded.
Commander, the Zilani Council has been discussing humanity's role in recent events. We believe your species represents something unique in galactic civilization. How so? Sarah asked, genuinely curious about an alien perspective on humanity. Most species join the Coalition after they have been attacked and need protection, Vexhai explained. Humans chose to risk everything to protect a species they had never encountered before. This suggests a fundamental commitment to justice that goes beyond self-interest. Admiral Kethvar stepped into view of the communication system. Council Leader Vexhai raises an important point. The Coalition has existed for over 300 years, but it has always been reactive rather than proactive. We protect our members, but we have never been able to take the initiative against threats like the Chromok Empire. And you think humans might change that? Sarah asked. Your actions at Kepler 442 suggest that humanity might be willing to take risks that other species avoid, Kethvar replied. The coalition needs members who are willing to act decisively when innocent lives are at stake. Sarah considered this assessment carefully. Was humanity really different from other species, or had they simply been fortunate in their first contact situation? Before she could respond, Torres announced another incoming transmission. Ma'am, this one is from Earth Command. It's marked as urgent and classified. Admiral Harrison's face appeared on a separate screen, his expression showing the strain of the past few days. Commander Chun, I need you to prepare for some potentially disturbing news. Sarah felt her stomach tighten. What's the situation, Admiral? Our monitoring stations have detected Chromok ships massing near the edge of human space. It appears they're preparing some kind of retaliation for what happened at Kepler 442. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Sarah had known that engaging the Chromok would have consequences, but she hadn't expected them to threaten Earth directly. What kind of force are we looking at? She asked. Intelligence estimates suggest at least 30 warships, possibly more. They're gathering in the Proxima Centauri system, just outside our territorial boundaries. Admiral Kethvar stepped forward immediately. Admiral Harrison, the coalition will not allow the Chromok to threaten Earth in retaliation for your actions in defense of our allies. We can have a fleet in your space within 48 hours. Harrison studied the alien admiral carefully. What would that commitment involve? Full defensive alliance, Kethvar replied without hesitation. The coalition would establish permanent bases in human space to deter Chromok aggression. In return, Earth would formally join the coalition and participate in joint military operations throughout the galaxy. Sarah realized they were witnessing history in the making. Earth was being forced to choose between isolation and full integration into galactic civilization, with the choice being driven by an immediate military threat. Admiral Harrison, she said, what's the status of our own defenses? The second and third fleets are moving to defensive positions around our major colonies, Harrison replied. But honestly, Commander, if the Chromok commit to a full assault, our current forces won't be sufficient to stop them. The stark reality of humanity's situation was becoming clear. They had acted on principle to save an innocent species, and now they needed allies to protect themselves from the consequences. Admiral Kethvar, Sarah said, if humanity accepts coalition membership, what would be expected of us in the long term? Partnership, the Altarian admiral replied simply. The coalition is not an empire that dominates its members. It's an alliance of equals working together to maintain peace and protect innocent civilizations. Sarah looked around at her crew, seeing the same determination in their faces that had carried them through the battle at Kepler 442. They had made their choice when they responded to the Zelani distress call, and now they were ready to face the consequences. Admiral Harrison, she said, I believe humanity is ready to take its place among the stars. The question is whether we'll do it as conquerors or protectors. The Zelani called for help and we answered. Now it's our turn to accept the help being offered. Harrison nodded slowly. Commander, I'll relay your recommendation to Earth's leadership, but I suspect the Chromok fleet massing near our borders will make the decision for us. As the communications ended, Sarah found herself contemplating the rapid transformation of humanity's place in the universe. 3 days ago, they had been alone among the stars. Now they were on the verge of joining a galactic alliance and potentially becoming one of its most active members. The journey from isolation to integration had begun with a single distress call, but Sarah suspected it would end with humanity taking on responsibilities they had never imagined. 1 week after the Battle of Kepler 442, the space around Earth buzzed with activity unlike anything in human history. Ships from across the galaxy had arrived to witness humanity's formal induction into the Galactic Defense Coalition, transforming the Sol system into a diplomatic hub for dozens of alien civilizations. Commander Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the UES Valiant, now serving as the flagship for Earth's newly expanded fleet. Through the main viewport, she could see the massive coalition dreadnought Harmony's Dawn, Admiral Kethvar's flagship, positioned alongside Earth's most advanced warships in a formation that spoke of alliance rather than conquest. Commander, Lieutenant Torres announced. Incoming transmission from Earth Command. President Martinez is ready to begin the formal ceremony. Sarah nodded, adjusting her dress uniform one final time. The past week had been a whirlwind of negotiations, technology transfers, and cultural exchanges as humanity prepared to join galactic civilization. The Chromok threat had indeed forced Earth's hand, but the decision had ultimately been unanimous across all world governments. The main screen activated, showing President Martinez standing in the United Nations Assembly Hall, surrounded by representatives from every nation on Earth. Behind her, through the tall windows, the lights of coalition ships could be seen orbiting the planet like new stars. People of Earth, President Martinez began, her voice carrying clearly across all communication channels. Today marks the beginning of a new chapter in human history. We stand at the threshold of joining a community of civilizations dedicated to peace, cooperation, and the protection of innocent life throughout the galaxy. Admiral Kethvar appeared on a split screen, speaking from the coalition flagship. President Martinez, on behalf of the Galactic Defense Coalition's Governing Council, it is my honor to welcome humanity as our newest member. Your species has already demonstrated the courage and moral conviction that defines our alliance. Sarah watched as the formal documents were exchanged electronically between the various ships and government centers. Legal frameworks that had taken centuries to develop were being adapted to include humanity in the galaxy's most significant peaceful alliance. Ma'am, Dr. Martinez called from his station. We're receiving real-time updates from the sensor network. The Chromok fleet that was massing near Proxima Centauri has withdrawn to their own territory. Sarah felt a surge of satisfaction. The show of coalition force around Earth had achieved its intended effect. The Chromok Empire, for all their aggression, was not prepared to face the combined military might of the galaxy's defensive alliance. Commander Brooks looked up from his tactical display. Commander, I'm showing over 200 coalition ships now distributed throughout human space. Their technology is impressive, but what's more interesting is their coordination. They move like they've been working together for generations. They have, Admiral Kethvar said, having heard Brooks's comment through the open communication channel. The coalition has refined joint operations for over 3 centuries. But we've also learned something valuable from observing human military tactics. Your flexibility and willingness to improvise has already influenced our standard operating procedures. Sarah found this exchange fascinating. Humanity was not just joining the coalition, they were contributing to its evolution. The tactical innovations that had helped them survive the Battle of Kepler 442 were being studied and adapted by military planners across the galaxy. Admiral, she said, what can you tell us about other member species? What should we expect as we integrate into galactic civilization? Kethvar's expression showed what might have been enthusiasm. Commander, the coalition includes over 400 different species, each bringing unique perspectives and capabilities. The Altarians, my own people, specialize in engineering and defensive technologies. The Vorthan are master strategists and diplomats. The Zilani, whom you rescued, are among our finest scientists and philosophers. And humans? Sarah asked. Humans appear to be natural protectors and innovators, Kethvar replied. Your willingness to risk everything for strangers, combined with your tactical adaptability, fills a role we have needed for decades. The formal ceremony continued for several hours, with representatives from major coalition species offering welcomes and sharing information about galactic civilization. Sarah was struck by the diversity of the Alliance beings of every conceivable form and culture united by shared principles rather than common biology. During a break in the proceedings, Council Leader Vexhai contacted the Valiant directly. The Zilani leader appeared on screen, his large eyes reflecting deep gratitude and excitement. Commander Chun, I wanted to personally thank you once more for what you and your species have done. The Zilani Council has voted to establish a permanent cultural exchange program with Earth. We believe our peoples have much to learn from each other. That sounds wonderful, Sarah replied. What kind of exchange are you envisioning? Scholars, artists, and scientists sharing knowledge and perspectives, Vexhai explained. The Zilani have always valued peaceful cooperation, but we have much to learn about courage and determination from humanity. In return, we can share our advances in sustainable technology and philosophical understanding. Sarah was pleased to hear about the cultural dimension of their new relationships. The coalition offered far more than just military protection. It provided access to the accumulated wisdom and knowledge of hundreds of civilizations. "Commander," Torres announced, "we're receiving an encrypted message from Admiral Rodriguez with the Second Fleet. It's marked as urgent military intelligence." Sarah authorized the transmission, and Admiral Rodriguez appeared on screen, his expression serious but determined. "Commander Chen, I wanted to update you on our defensive preparations. Coalition engineers have begun installing advanced shield generators around our major colonies, and they're teaching our crews how to operate enhanced weapon systems." "What's the timeline for full integration?" Sarah asked. 6 months for basic defensive capabilities, 2 years for full technological parity with coalition standards," Rodriguez replied. "But, Commander, what's really impressive is the coordination. Every coalition ship in our space is working with our crews like they've been allies for years." Admiral Kethvar joined the conversation. "Admiral Rodriguez, the coalition has learned that successful alliances require trust and cooperation from the beginning. We don't wait for formal treaties to begin working together." Sarah found herself impressed by the coalition's approach. Rather than bureaucratic procedures and gradual integration, they were acting like humanity had always been part of their alliance. "Admiral Kethvar," she said, "what's our first official mission as coalition members?" The Altarian admiral's expression grew serious. "Actually, Commander, we were hoping to discuss that with you. The coalition has identified several peaceful species currently under threat from various aggressive powers. We would like to propose joint rescue operations, with human tactical expertise combined with coalition resources." Sarah felt a familiar surge of determination. "Are we talking about situations similar to what the Zilani faced?" "Exactly," Kethvar confirmed. "The coalition has always been reactive, responding to calls for help after attacks begin. But human willingness to intervene proactively could allow us to prevent genocides before they start." The implications were staggering. Humanity was being asked to help transform the coalition from a defensive alliance into a proactive force for peace and protection throughout the galaxy. "Admiral," Sarah said, "I think I can speak for most humans when I say we're interested, but we'll need to understand the full scope and risks." "Of course," Kethvar agreed. "We're proposing a series of small-scale operations first, allowing human and coalition forces to develop joint operational procedures. If successful, we could expand to larger missions with greater strategic importance." President Martinez rejoined the conversation from Earth. "Admiral Kethvar, this sounds like exactly the kind of role humanity is prepared to embrace. We didn't join the coalition just for protection. We want to contribute to galactic peace." As the formal ceremonies concluded and the various fleets began to disperse to their new assignments, Sarah reflected on the remarkable transformation that had occurred. 7 days ago, humanity had been alone among the stars. Today, they were full members of the galaxy's most important peaceful alliance, with responsibilities and opportunities that previous generations could never have imagined. "Ma'am," Dr. Martinez approached with a data pad containing the first coalition mission briefings. "You should see these proposed operations. It looks like we're going to be very busy." Sarah reviewed the information, noting target systems where peaceful species faced imminent threats from various aggressive powers. Each operation would require the unique combination of coalition resources and human tactical innovation that had proven so effective at Kepler 442. "Torres, establish a channel to Earth Command," she ordered. "I need to discuss crew rotations and ship assignments with Admiral Harrison. If we're going to be the coalition's rapid response force, we'll need more than one ship." As the communication systems activated, Sarah looked out at the stars surrounding Earth, now knowing that many of them harbored civilizations that might someday call for help. The universe had become a much larger and more complex place, but humanity had found its role among the stars. They would be protectors, innovators, and bridges between species. The galaxy had called for human help, and humanity had arrived not just with ships and weapons, but with something far more valuable: the willingness to risk everything for strangers. "Commander," Admiral Harrison's face appeared on screen. "I assume you're ready for your next assignment?" Sarah smiled, feeling the same determination that had carried her through the Battle of Kepler 442. "Admiral, humanity answered one call for help and gained an entire galaxy of allies. I'd say we're ready to answer a few more." As the UES Valiant prepared to depart Earth for its first official coalition mission, Sarah knew they were embarking on adventures that would define humanity's reputation among the stars for generations to come. The galaxy had learned that when innocent lives were threatened, humans would respond with everything they had. And, across the vastness of space, peaceful civilizations faced their darkest hours with new hope, knowing that help was coming from an unlikely species that had just arrived among the stars with the most powerful weapon of all, the absolute conviction that every life was worth protecting. The age of human isolation was over. The age of galactic protection had begun.